Here we have a 1997 Nissan Sentra Super Saloon. Now this car is also called the Nissan Sunny. Today I'm going to show you around this car and I'm also going to give it a test drive. Let's start at the front of the Nissan Sentra. So this is called the Sentra because it's a Philippine spec model. Now how can you tell? You can look at the bumpers. The JDM ones, they don't have their fog lamps down here. Instead, they're over here at the side. These 90s cars, what I love about them, they still have glass headlamps, so they don't turn yellow unlike those newer plastic ones that we have now. Although the projector, the reflector rather inside, they still turn dark sometimes, so that's just something to look out for. Now, if you look at the car overall, it's a very, very small car. It's very short, like height-wise, and it's also very short length-wise. If you saw my Prius C video, I noted how just small that car is, but look how short this car is. It's even below my shoulder, so that's just something about these older cars. The rims on this one too, they're 14-inch rims and they're high profile, 65 profile. So that's really something about older cars. They don't have all those huge rims that'll hamper ride quality. This one actually rides pretty well. Moving on here, you can see that there's really not that much lines too on it, not much curves either. So it's just a very linear design. There's nothing much going on. Here at the back, you can see that it has a Sentra logo and Super Saloon. Super Saloon because this is one of those rather higher trims. It also comes with a 1.6 liter engine. And as you open this up, you can see that the trunk for its time and for its class, its size, it's actually not bad. And since, again, this is an older car, you have a full-size spare tire, which is something that you just don't get anymore nowadays. Now, these tires were made in 2006, according to the DOT code, so it's something you're not supposed to use anymore. As you close it back up, it's very light, it's a very light trunk, and it just closes down like that. So under the hood of the Sentra Super Saloon, you have this 1.6-liter inline-4 GA16DNE engine with 106 horsepower in PS and an unknown figure of torque. Now, the DE version of this motor produces 146. However, you can't find the exact spec for the torque on this, but that one has around 146, so I guess this one has roughly that same amount. That engine is plenty powerful, enough, way more than enough, actually, for this car, which you'll see in the drive later on. So you're inside the Sentra. Let's check the third of the door. As expected of an old Japanese car, doesn't exactly sound good. Now, to start the car up, it's the normal thing. However, if you have the key in the ignition and you remove it to turn it off, you can't just pull the key out. So you have to press this button first. Press it. That's the time you can turn it. Pretty cool. Let's start the car up. Fires right up like that. Turn on the AC. Now in here, the materials as expected of an older car. There's really no soft touch all over, so it's just hard touch plastic, hard touch plastic. Although I must note that the plastics in here, they do feel a little bit better than in the econo cars today. So yeah, that's just something that we don't get anymore. The steering wheel is a very nice size. It's a decent size. There is peeling already here, given its age, that's fine. This car is 118,554 kilometers on it. Here, what else on the interior? In the center part, you get these air vents that is unnaturally posh feeling, especially for a slightly econo car like this. So the way you move it, it doesn't feel rusty, but it's a bit tight. So usually you only get that feeling with like Mercedes or BMW. Pretty cool with this one. Down here, your AC system, it's a very simple AC system, so it's not climate control and all that, just hot and cold, and your settings for where you want the air to come out from. Then, of course, it is a Nissan system, so it is very, very cool. You get an aftermarket Pioneer head unit. Your gear shifter, it's a 5-speed, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then reverse, as usual, is over here. Now, what's cool about this is that if you see this button right here, that's actually a horn button. So that's aftermarket. So what happened was there was an issue with the steering wheel at one point. So if you turned the steering wheel lock to lock, the horn would suddenly sound at times. So they disconnected that and instead put this aftermarket one right here. Aside from that, cubby's over here. So if you press this, you get this cup holder. It's a bit tight. And there's a wire thing, so it will hold your cup. It's very, very thin. It's made out of metal too. Then if you have a small drink, you leave it like that. If you have a bigger drink, you lift this one up. Then back down again for smaller drinks. Then we close that one. You got another cubby over here. That is really deep. Like even large phones will fit in there. You get this ashtray / coin holder. You get a 12-volt outlet. More cubbies here. Conventional handbrake, very nice. And this one, this is supposed to be an armrest, I guess, but it's just so small and so low. I mean, like, you can barely put anything in there. So yeah, I don't even know why they bothered putting that. The headliner, it's thinner than in modern cars. This one too feels very, very flimsy and thin. Now here on over to the side, What's cool about this is that in most cars you get the opening switch for the fuel tank release, and the boot separately. But for this one, it's the same lever, so you pull to open the trunk or the boot, and you push it to open the gas tank. Very cool, but very quirky at the same time. The seats on this, they feel brand new, because this one actually got seat covers since day one, but now it's been removed for the video, and it's just in perfect condition. It's nice felt material. Same thing here with the side, but there's really not much adjustments to it. So you get the front and back. You do get recline, and while you can like twist a knob over here to raise this bottom part of the seat and the front part, you can't raise the entire seat. So if you're a bit short, you can't really see much out of the car. Now, this car being the Super Saloon, it has all power except for the seat. So your side mirrors, they are power adjustable, your usual glass tilt. But what's cool about it is that it's also power folding. So if I just fold it like that, folds all the way. Now sometimes this driver one gets stuck, so I wouldn't show that. But what's interesting about this older car, in modern cars you just push the fold or unfold button. But for this one, after you click the unfold, once it fully unfolds, you have to manually put it back to the neutral position, or else the motor just keeps running. It's just something that we've come a long way since buttons like that. At the back, let's check the thud of the door. That actually sounds really, really good, which is quite surprising. It's so different from the front. Now at the back, there's really nothing much. It's as bare bones as it gets. So this is seated behind my my own driving position. I'm 5'6". While there is leg room, however, what's quite annoying here is that the thigh support isn't really there. So you feel like you're sitting a bit too high. Headroom's not that much either, and it's just a little claustrophobic feeling back here. As for toys, you really don't have anything at all. You don't get an armrest. You do get an ashtray, I guess. You also get a small cubby here. Your window, it is power, however, it doesn't go all the way down, so that's something kids will not love. So let's close that one back up. It's a bit slow too, which is kind of weird. You get a sad excuse for a headrest, but hey, that's better than nothing. And you can actually just pull this down. There's a lever back here that you pull, and this one folds down. So it's 60/40 folding seats, like that. Now, if you sit here in the middle, there is a very low transmission tunnel. It is front-wheel drive after all. And I must say, the middle seat isn't as bad as I thought, because in most cars, the middle seat is a bit higher, so you don't get that much headroom. But this one, the headroom more or less between these three seats are roughly the same. Not saying that they're a lot, but yeah, they're roughly the same. Driving the 1997 Nissan Sentra Super Saloon. So I love how this is a 90s car, and it's just very, very small. Now, do note that this is a compact car, so its modern equivalent would be something like a Toyota Corolla Altis or a Honda Civic. Yet this car is just so small. I mean, if you compare this to modern cars, the size-wise, it's pretty much just like driving a Vios. In fact, it feels smaller than a Vios, because although the Vios is almost as short as this, it's pretty chunky on the outside. And this one is really not chunky at all. The lines all over outside, they're nice and thin. They're more of a linear design. It's not that curvy. And that translates to this car being very, very nimble given its size. So as I go around this roundabout here pretty fast, despite the fact that this car is front-wheel drive, it doesn't really feel like a front-wheel drive. Then it's actually quite nimble. It's very comfortable over potholes and speed bumps. Yet, if you do want to throw around corners, it can handle itself pretty well. It's just firm enough. That's the proper term for it. It's just firm enough. Now, accelerating this car, I'm currently in second gear. I'm just going to floor it here. Let's go to third. Hold on, there's a car. But yeah, overall, it's just a very, very easy car to drive. The clutch is a bit hard to get used to at first. So when I first drove this, I did stall a couple of times, because as I'm used to driving diesel manuals, there's way more torque that you can pretty much just ride the clutch. But this one, you can't really do that. You have to balance it out with the accelerator a lot, which is normal for a lot of gasoline cars, I believe. I haven't driven a lot of them. But yeah, okay. After this intersection, I'm just going to floor this car for you. I'm going to launch it so that we can get the true power of this car. Okay, here you go. And first gear. That's the bad shift. Second. Third. And although it's not a very fast car, it feels very fast because of course the noise insulation isn't that great on these older cars. So there's a lot of wind noise, a lot of road noise. That adds to the fast factor, the fast perception that you have with this car. Now, visibility, as with most 90s car, it is amazing. There's just not much things going on around you. There's no side curtain airbags. There's no side airbags even. You only have one airbag in this car. It's just for the driver's side. So visibility just all around, all over it. You can see so much out of it. Parking this car too, given its size, is pretty easy. Despite this car having pretty decent handling for its class, the steering, it's still very typical of a car of this class, which means that although it is a bit heavy in terms of like the steering feel, it is hydraulic power steering after all, it's still not as direct. So I'm not sure if this uses a recirculating ball system, but there sure is a dead spot in the middle of it. So if I'm currently dead center like that and I do turn it a little bit, there's like an inch or two of steering wheel travel where nothing's happening in the wheel and there's no feedback as well, so you don't really know where the front tires are pointing. It's a very numb type of steering. Since this is a Nissan, can't forget about Nissan's legendary air conditioning system. So right now it's January and it's not exactly the warmest of days, but I can attest that this aircon's cold. I just have the fan on the first setting right now and it's extremely cold in here. It's way colder than a lot of even modern cars that I have. Let's throw around this corner again, this big roundabout, and it doesn't feel scary to drive around corners. There's a little bit of body roll, but it's manageable. Whoa, you can really drive this fast. I can imagine people racing this car back then or even today. So what's my verdict on this car? It's a great daily car. It's a great cheap car. Today you can pick up one of these for less than 100,000 pesos. So if you want to make it your secondary car or even your first car, if it's the first car you're gonna get, since its main purpose is just to really transport you from point A to point B and do so comfortably, this is a great car to choose, especially with that legendary Nissan aircon system.